Joining us right now from CPAC right now is the author of The Coming Collapse of China and the chairman of the CPAC National Security Committee, Gordon Chang. Gordon, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, thank you, Maria.
So you're set to address the CPAC crowd today on the topic of China's existential challenge to the United States and the world. Tell us the crux of your commentary today.
Well, there's going to be 4 speeches that I'm emceeing. One is on the economy, one is a challenge to our national security, one to our domestic security, and I'm going to be talking about China's attack on our society. And I'm going to concentrate on the opioid crisis because the Chinese are manufacturing fentanyl, they're bringing it into this country, and the Chinese ruling party, the Communist Party, knows about this and has been protecting that trade.
By the way, aren't most prescription drugs made in China? It's not just opioids,
well,
right?
Many of them, yes, many of them are.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about are the labs that are off the grid, but protected by the security services and by the party itself.
Yeah.
And we know that fentanyl is made to kill Americans because it's made more addictive, and that is the purpose of this. And so we're going to talk about this in very plain terms.
Yeah, the reason that I brought that up, Lee, is because, you know, when you talk about the potential of a trade war with China, right, just remember how much influence they have in terms of producing common medicines that we need in this country. I mean, if you stop the flow of the prescription drugs, I mean, there's a lot to think about in terms of trade with China. So that's why I bring it up.
Yeah,
and
I think that it's not an easy issue.
Yeah.
I think that the president is really winning the hearts of the American people on the conversations on trade, although I think there's a lot of people who are really afraid of what might happen here. Gordon, what do you think is the most important thing for us to make sure that we keep things moving smoothly?
Well, the one thing that we got to remember is we don't really need to be afraid of China, because last year, 88.8% of their overall trade surplus related to sales to the U.S. That was up from an already incredible 68.0% in 2016. So, you know, China needs us. We don't need China as much. Now, I realize that there are these interdependencies, but nonetheless, we've got to remember the balance of power in this relationship belongs to the U.S. President Trump holds the aces in the deck.
Gordon, you mentioned that the balance of power, but they're becoming an increasing in the world with their power. I mean, if you look, they opened up an air base in Africa, or they opened up an army base in Africa, in the Horn of Djibouti, or the Horn of Africa and Djibouti. You're also seeing the biggest situation with North Korea, where we're trying to corral them. Their weapons program is certainly aided and abetted by China. Isn't this more of a national security issue as opposed to a trade issue?
Well, yes, of course. And because China has been challenging not only the United States, but our friends and allies and its neighbors. So this is a broad-based challenge against the international system. You know, and it's not only a question of their territorial expansionism, you know, something like we've seen in the 1930s, we're seeing right now along China's periphery, but they're also trying to close off the global commons, international airspace, international water, and that goes against, you know, 240 years of American foreign policy to protect freedom of navigation.
Yeah, you know, Gordon, I feel like trade is one of those risky things out there that could unnerve markets. I mean, there's an op-ed in the Journal today. Trump and Canada may chill a NAFTA deal, and I think that's one of the risks that people are looking at as far as upsetting the market. And I know, Gary Smith, I want to get your take on this, because China has manipulated markets. We know that. China is warning now it's prepared to take action if President Trump puts heavy tariffs on imports of aluminum and steel. The Commerce Department is recommending a 24% global tariff on steel imports and a 23.5% tariff on aluminum products, specifically from China. So do you worry about this? We know what he just did on washing machines and solar panels, but what kind of action might China take if the president goes forward with these tariffs?
Well, the one thing that we know that China is going to do is go after the agricultural products that they buy. They're going to try to, in effect, buy votes in the American heartland. But, you know, they could do a number of things because, as you pointed out, our economies are interdependent. But when you look at the balance of power in this, remember, we're the trade deficit country. Trade deficit countries don't get hurt in trade wars. We're the bigger economy by far. And the balance of trade is certainly something that we can use against them. You know, when you pursue decades of misguided policies on trade, It's going to get ugly, but we've got to remember that we have no choice because of what the Chinese are doing.
So, Gary V. Smith, your take. Are you worried that these new tariffs are going to upset markets? And then this op-ed in the Journal is really important. You should check it out in terms of Canada and Mexico. But
Maria, I've said it for a while. I like Trump's policies. The only thing I don't like is this trade policy.
Yeah.
I think trade is not. Trump makes it about jobs. Trade is not about jobs. Trade is about creating wealth for the country. Gordon, quick question to you. We feared the Soviet Union back in the 50s, and I think they collapsed because they were not democratic and not capitalistic. Do you think China faces that same concern, or are they a lot more capitalistic than led to believe?
Yeah, the problem with China, and I didn't quite hear the question because of the noise, but the problem with China right now is that it's closing off its markets. It's becoming much more state-dominated. Right. State industrial policy is predominating, and that is eventually going to erode growth. And growth, by the way, is not the 6.9% that they claim. It's probably in the 2 to 3 area, and they're creating debt at 20% a year, so that the arithmetic doesn't work.
Well, I mean, you also have China's insurance regulator taking control of Anbang, which is the owner of the Waldorf Astoria. So, I mean, Gary was trying to get at whether or not China is more capitalist than we think, or in fact, are they showing their communist hands at every turn?
Yeah, well, they're going back to essentially what we saw in the 1950s before Deng Xiaoping opened up the economy. Because Xi Jinping believes in state ownership and state control of the economy. So it's becoming less liberal as time goes on, and it's becoming less open. So the problem there is that eventually you can do that for a little while if you're an authoritarian, totalitarian state. You can't do it long term. And that's not a prediction. We've seen this in previous years in China, especially during the imperial times when emperors did the same thing, close off the Chinese economy, and it falls apart.
All right, Gordon, we'll leave it there. Good luck with the speech and your panels today, Gordon. Thank you. Gordon Chang joining us there.
Thanks so much, Maria.